Have you ever found yourself in a situation where a simple discussion spirals into a heated argument over the smallest, most unimportant things? If yes, you're not alone. It's a common human tendency that's been humorously captured in a one-act play written over a century ago. The play in question, The Proposal by Anton Chekhov. A timeless piece of literature, it continues to echo in today's world, reflecting our own follies back at us with a dash of humor and satire. In this play, Chekhov masterfully portrays the breakdown of communication, the tendency to escalate trivial issues into major conflicts, and the often irrational and absurd behavior we humans are prone to. His characters, Lomov and Natalia, are mirrors held up to society, reflecting how easily we can lose sight of the main issue and get caught up in irrelevant details. Now let's delve into the themes of this fascinating play. At the core of The Proposal lies the theme of miscommunication. This one-act play by Anton Chekhov beautifully captures the essence of human communication, or rather, the lack thereof. Our protagonists, Lomov and Natalia, are perfect examples of how miscommunication can turn the simplest of conversations into a raging storm. Take, for instance, the scene where Lomov comes to Natalia's house to discuss a land dispute. Instead of addressing the issue at hand, they end up entangled in a petty argument about the superiority of their respective hunting dogs. It's a classic example of how people often lose sight of the main issue, getting caught up in irrelevant details. This inability to communicate effectively is not limited to their argument about dogs. It permeates their interactions throughout the play. When Lomov attempts to propose to Natalia, their conversation veers off course, turning into a heated debate about the merits of various food items. This miscommunication further escalates the situation, leading to Lomov's dramatic fainting spell. Through these instances, Chekhov gives us a satirical insight into the often absurd nature of human conversations. It's as if he holds up a mirror to society, showing us how we often talk past each other rather than to each other. We see this in our daily lives too, don't we? Misunderstandings, assumptions, and distractions often lead us away from meaningful communication. In the world of The Proposal, miscommunication is not just a plot device, it's a character in itself. It drives the narrative, fuels the comedy, and in the end, brings our protagonists together in the most unexpected of ways. So, what can we learn from Lomov and Natalia's comedic exchanges? Perhaps it's the importance of clear communication, the need to focus on the issue at hand rather than getting lost in the maze of irrelevant details. Miscommunication, as Chekhov shows us, can lead to a comedy of errors, but also to unnecessary conflicts. Another theme that Chekhov masterfully weaves into The Proposal is that of frivolous disputes. The playwright expertly illustrates how the characters, particularly Lomov and Natalia, allow minor disagreements to balloon into major conflicts. Their heated exchanges, from the quality of their hunting dogs to the nutritional value of oats, seem to overshadow the real reason for Lomov's visit, their land dispute. This serves as a satirical critique of the human tendency to magnify trivial issues. The characters are so consumed by their petty squabbles that the actual reason for their meeting, the resolution of a property dispute, slips into oblivion. This theme perfectly encapsulates the absurdity of their situation and reflects the irrationality that often permeates human interactions. For instance, one of the most humorous and absurd disputes in the play involves the characters' dogs. Lomov, who owns a dog named Guess, and Natalia, who owns a dog named Squeezer, engage in a passionate argument over which dog is superior. This argument, which is utterly irrelevant to the land dispute, escalates to such an extent that it causes Lomov to have a panic attack. This dispute over the dogs represents the triviality and absurdity of their arguments. It's a clear reflection of how individuals can inflate minor disagreements into major conflicts, losing sight of what truly matters. Chekhov's portrayal of such disagreements is not just a critique of the characters in his play, but also an observation of human nature. It's a reminder that, too often, we allow minor issues to take center stage, causing us to lose perspective on the larger, more important issues at hand. In the grand scheme of things, the superiority of one's dog, or the nutritional value of oats is insignificant. Yet, these characters, like many of us, allow such trivialities to consume them, obscuring their view of the bigger picture. Chekhov's portrayal of frivolous disputes reminds us of the absurdity of such conflicts and the need for perspective. It is a call to rise above trivial disagreements, to focus on what truly matters, and to communicate effectively to resolve conflicts rather than exacerbating them. Lastly, the proposal offers a satirical look at the absurdity of human behavior. Let's delve into how Chekhov masterfully depicts this theme through the actions of his characters. Lomov's impulsive proposal to Natalia is a prime example. Despite their constant bickering and seemingly incompatible temperaments, Lomov, in a moment of inexplicable irrationality, proposes to Natalia. This act, while seemingly out of the blue, is a classic illustration of the impulsiveness often inherent in human actions. Lomov, caught up in his emotions and perhaps overwhelmed by the intensity of their argument, makes a decision that appears to be devoid of any logical thought process. It's absurd, it's erratic, and it's quintessentially human. Similarly, Natalia's reactions throughout the play also mirror the folly of human behavior. One moment, she's engaged in a heated argument with Lomov, and the next, she's overjoyed at his proposal, completely forgetting their previous quarrels. Such drastic swings in emotions and actions, while seemingly absurd, are quite reflective of the unpredictability of human behavior. Chekhov's characters, in their inability to communicate effectively and their knack for magnifying insignificant issues, perfectly embody the irrationality that often characterizes human interactions. They argue, they fight, they make up, and then they start the cycle all over again. It's a chaotic dance of emotions and reactions, filled with unexpected twists and turns that make us question the logic behind our own actions. Chekhov, through his satirical portrayal, invites us to reflect on our own behavior. He prompts us to question why we act the way we do, why we let trivial matters escalate, and why we often act on impulse rather than reason. Through his characters, Chekhov highlights the unpredictability and absurdity of human behavior, reminding us to laugh at our own follies. So, what can we take away from The Proposal by Anton Chekhov? In this one-act play, Chekhov artfully uncovers the comical side of our everyday interactions, highlighting the common issues of miscommunication, frivolous disputes, and the absurdity of human behavior. Let's revisit the main points. Miscommunication is a prominent theme, demonstrated through the characters Lomov and Natalia. Their initial meeting for a land dispute quickly descends into a petty argument about everything but the land itself. This is a satirical portrayal of how we often lose sight of the original issue, getting tangled in irrelevant details, and in the process, the core message is lost. Next, we have frivolous disputes. The character's readiness to argue and escalate minor disagreements into major conflicts is a reflection of how we humans can sometimes blow things out of proportion. What starts as a simple land dispute is soon forgotten as they squabble over petty issues, illustrating the absurdity of such conflicts. Lastly, Chekhov satirizes the absurdity of human behavior. Lomov's irrational proposal to Natalia, in spite of their constant bickering, underscores the impulsiveness and folly of human actions. Their inability to communicate effectively and their inclination to magnify minor issues mirror the irrationality often seen in our own interactions. These themes, while humorously depicted, are a stark reminder of the pitfalls we can fall into in our daily lives. We may laugh at the character's folly, but it's worth reflecting on how often we find ourselves in similar situations. In essence, The Proposal by Anton Chekhov is a comedic critique of our everyday interactions. It's a mirror held up to society, reflecting our tendencies to miscommunicate, argue over trivialities, and act irrationally. Chekhov's The Proposal humorously reminds us of our own follies, encouraging us to communicate better, avoid unnecessary disputes, and most importantly, find humor in our absurdities.